Man, so I'm actually gonna steal a question of yours that I've seen in one of your interviews, your many interviews online. But how would you like to be introduced?
I always like for you to just kind of rattle off a couple of the things, and then people's brains are like, like you say, three-sport athlete, played college football, pinch hit for Darryl Strawberry, tried it for the Cowboys, worked at ESPN, 7 Emmys. Oh yeah, did I tell you he doesn't have any legs? And people just like, huh? It breaks that stereotype of what disability means or handicap means. So.
Yeah, well, that was a very good introduction, so thank you for that. Now, I want to tell you what some of your friends say about you that I saw while watching a lot of your past videos. But Tim Tebow says that he loves your perspective, and we all know Tim Tebow, absolute legend of an athlete. The dude's
Yeah.
known globally. He called you a role model. So there's one. Darryl Strawberry, he said that you inspire him and that knowing your story, that no matter what battle it is, you can always face it and you can conquer it. And then the third description that I would like to use of yours that I've heard was from JB Smooth, the comedian. He calls you half man, half amazing, which I think is absolutely awesome. And it fits you perfectly because you just love to have a good time. You love to make jokes and you love to make the best of your situation. And I think it's just so awesome. And when I heard all of those guys say that stuff, and there's a laundry list of ways that everybody describes you too, but it's just so remarkable. And your story is amazing. And when I first started this podcast, I love baseball. I love being positive and inspiring people. And yeah, you're a fellow Quinnipiac dude. So I was like, man, who better to have on than Dave Stevens? So Dave, thanks for hopping on. Keep swinging, brother.
Oh no, man, it's an honor, and when you hear those things, it's just very humbling. When a guy like Larry Fitzgerald says you're his hero, and you just don't know. I'm just this little old poor kid from Wickenburg, Arizona, that just wanted to play sports and do my thing, and I'm not a hero. I'm not a role model like Charles Barkley used to say. I just want to show people that you can't judge a book by its cover. People might look at me now in a wheelchair and feel sorry for me, but it's like, you know, I feel sorry for them because I've lived this amazing Forrest Gump life that's taken me all over the country and trying out for pro teams. And still to this day, yeah, like you said, who gets to hang out with Tim Tebow and play catch and go in the batting cages with Tim Tebow and, dance at the Super Bowl, JB Smoove, and hang out with Rob Gronkowski. And, I pinch myself at age 55. I'm still living that dream. And for anybody that thinks that they can't go out and do these things, I say, hey, if a guy without legs can go out and do the things that I did, then what's your freaking excuse? Like, get off your butt and just utilize the gifts that you have.
You're exactly right, man. There's no excuse. What is anybody's excuse? And man, everybody's gonna be fired up about this. And if you're watching this on YouTube or you see any of the video clips right behind Dave, he's got 7 Emmys at the time of this recording right now. So and he's just done everything. So you did mention Arizona, so that's kind of where I want to start. Just talk about your upbringing, because I know, like you said, it wasn't the most ideal situation that you came into class-wise, but that was pretty much you from the get-go. You just made the best of your situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real baseball analogy of, strike one, born without legs, strike two, put up for adoption, and then, a couple of curveballs with a World War II vet and a housewife that adopted me. They were taken in foster kids in Arizona, and many of your viewers or listeners don't even know what institutionalized was, but they could physically put you into a hospital where they just kind of raised you all your life if nobody wanted you, and luckily that was abolished in the late 70s and things like that. But I guess I just never knew that I wasn't normal. I just kind of learned to run on my arms and do things, and there was no book how to play sports for dummies. But I had a buddy, and we started playing with a tennis ball in the backyard that I could learn to catch, and figure out how could I jump up in the air, and wiffle balls, and you start working on I'm Reggie Jackson, and then we would play basketball, and I would be famous Phoenix Suns guys like Paul Westphal and Walter Davis, or we would play with a Nerf football, and I just started just figuring out, hey, I could tackle people, I could do this, and then you start in 7th and 8th grade not getting picked last for sports teams when when it's the chubby kid or the kid that is a foreign exchange student, and they're not, the legless kid's not getting picked last anymore because he can actually contribute. And it just it blossomed into just successes, at the high school level. A lot of, things against me. They didn't want to let me play. No one had ever done these kind of things. They had me tested, blood tests, muscle tests. They couldn't find anything to hold me back, so I started playing sports, and that's really when it started exploding statewide in Arizona in wrestling and football and baseball, and then getting a chance to go to an Olympic tryout and be in the same outfield with Odie McDowell and Barry Bonds, and just at an early age, these amazing things started happening to me.
Yeah, so one thing that I want to touch on for sure is that you said that there were people who are just trying to have you take tests and do all these things so that you can't participate. You loved hockey, and that was another sport in Arizona. There, the state was literally trying to stop you from playing, and just like,
Yeah.
dude, let the kid play. And one of the lines that you have that I just absolutely love is you've turned your disability into ability. You've actually taken all these challenges head on, and probably done more than what you would have had the situation had been different. So it's just like the amount of people that you have proved wrong is just so freaking awesome. And you guys can go back and you guys could check out YouTube and some of these videos of what Dave was just talking about with tryouts and whatnot. But it was just so awesome just to see that like you let nothing stop you from taking part in what you wanted to do and what you loved. And that was just so freaking awesome. Who was your role model at home every day?
My mom and dad loved me and they never held me back. And because at such an early age, we had the Shriners organization fitting me with artificial legs at age 2. And then I would go around and put on shows and go to San Diego and go here and there and sing and whip my legs off and tell some really bad jokes and sing a couple of, silly songs and showcasing that. And that's where I really started, I think, to become realize that this could take me somewhere, that you could utilize what I had, and it's not that as I looked at myself as I'm this amazing magical thing. It's just like this is who I am. I am a
Yes.
showman. I'm an athlete. I always wanted to be thought of as Dave Stevens and not that guy without legs or that handicapped kid or whatever. And so you start beating people in wrestling, and then the wrestling coach is saying, well, he has to wear shoes because he doesn't have shoes on. And I'm like, I have socks on. Like, they're trying to go by the letter of the law because I'm having these successes. And guy in the stands at a baseball game with the bases loaded and we were trailing by a couple of runs, and I come up to bat and this guy starts screaming the most hideous insults. A big, heavy set man, wife beater t shirt with yellow armpit stains, screaming, this is cheap baseball. This is low rent baseball. This guy's a midget. He's a freak. He
Oh,
shouldn't be up there. And I look at my coach and I'm like, Coach, what should I do? And he's like, get in there and hit the ball. So, first pitch, as usual, in the ground, bounce because of my short strike zone. But that next pitch, right above my head, and I crushed that ball into the outfield. 3 runners come around to score. As I got to first, I got there and I spun around on one arm and I said, that's what I'm here for. You bleep, 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 bleep. So we have the lead. My coach is running across the field. I think he's going to say, hey, you're a hero. Let me take you out of the game. And instead, he's like, get your butt in the dugout. I'm like, what? And he goes, Stevens, get your butt in the dugout. So I go, okay. So I figure, whatever, and he's like, do you know why I took you out of the game? And I said, no, coach, why? He said, because when you turned to first base and started screaming at that guy, you became that bully. Because when we're picked on, the first people that we look on is to find the ones that are weaker than us. And so that guy who was a bully and a meanie picking on me stopping that moment and turning it back on him, I was just being that kind of a person. And his next words, and I'll never forget because I live this to the day, is always walk the talk. Always act like you've been there. So, you know what? So what? A legless guy got a base hit. I'm not going crazy. I just, tip your hat or whatever. I make a sack. I make a tackle. I want to, whatever. It's just like, let the crowd appreciate what you did. I don't need to do that. You see guys in football games, it's 55-2, and they make a sack and they get up and dance. It's like, do you look at the scoreboard? Like, this is your job. Your job is to hit a ball. Your job is to make a tackle. Your job is to do what you're supposed to do. And if you win in that moment, it's okay to celebrate. So I never forgot that I became that bully. I became that person because I quickly wanted to reach out. I was so angry. I wanted to, I didn't know what to do. you just don't know what to do in the heat of the moment. Thankfully, people ask why I wore number 44 all my life, because of Reggie Jackson, the old time baseball player, because he always came through in the clutch under the pressure. And he was arrogant and he was cocky and he was whatever. But guess what? He still walked the talk. He was able to do what he was able to do. And I know people are staring at me. I know all eyes are always on me. I can't pick my nose in public because they're looking at me. So it's like, imagine as an athlete, they're either going to feel really sorry for you for the poor crippled kid that failed, or they're going to be like, what the hell did I just witness?
Now, is that high school coach who taught you that life lesson, which is pretty much like don't let an asshole turn you into an asshole?
Yeah.
Was he the guy that was kind of like always in your ear, the individual that was just that constant reminder of how to be a good person and like and a role model? Was he that influential figure to you? And if he was, is this the same coach who just kind of raved about your style of play, saying that you always hustled? You're like a Pete Rose type player on the baseball field.
It gets back to your point that you have a coach like that. My coach is what, 85 years old. I just played catch with him a couple years ago. He's 85, 86, and he's still alive to this day. I call him. His grandson was the bat boy of the Tampa Rays this year. Like, he got to go like, it's amazing, these things that happen in life. But I always remember just that I wouldn't be where I am today because of being poor, and because those coaches in those days let me stay at their house, because we didn't have cable TV and it was 20 miles to come into the town. And so the coaches would just keep me, and I'd hang out in Wickenburg that weekend. And nowadays coaches can't have those relationships because it's inappropriate. We've really lost those bonds. And to your earlier question about thy role models, my mom and dad, yes, but I had a wrestling coach and a baseball coach that became more than that. They became those people that believed in me, that had to battle, other parents. Like, can you imagine if your kid's on a baseball team or a wrestling team or a football team, and your son gets beat out by a kid without legs? Of course, you're going to go to somebody and say, what's wrong with this team? How can that? Parents can't hear that their kid sucks or that their kid isn't good enough. We give out too many participation trophies instead of teaching wins and losses. Life has wins and losses. So I didn't know about this till years after, of parents coming to them and yelling at coaches saying, how can he beat my kid out? And how can he do this? And, all these pressures. Like, I just wanted to go out and play. And that's kind of just how I wish everybody could. We didn't have a Jim Abbott back in those days like we did, years later. We didn't have a Shaquem Griffin with one hand, who now is an amazing story, or Zion Clark, who's now the fastest man on two hands. I told him I'd get him in the MMA match. But, there's all these amazing
Yeah.
stories out there that, that the world is filled with. There's so many people with disabilities that can contribute, not at my level like sports, but, the Army could open up their minds and say, we could have people with disabilities building computers, fixing our land aircraft carriers, creating the next, defense systems. We should be able to let people with disabilities be baseball scouts and football scouts and things like that, where they can contribute. We don't have to just think of that one demographic, where when we talk about diversity, that it's a color and ethnicity. We have to have inclusion for everybody. So there are more Dave Stevenses that we hear about.
Yep. And you took the words right out of my mouth. You mentioned something about becoming a scout. How did you handle the situation when a scout pretty much straight up told you to take a hike when you said that you want to play baseball? A baseball scout said that. And also too, what would your advice be to somebody who hears that type of, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, and puts labels and limits on everybody? Because there's a lot of people out there, especially this day and age. And as you know, in media, everybody's trying to do something, and no matter what, there's always going to be people telling them no. And it doesn't matter what career or field they're in, there's always going to be that person saying no. There's always going to be that person or people tearing them down, whether it's to your face or behind your back. So, two-part question right there. How'd you handle that phone call from the baseball scout who told you basically to take a hike? And what would you tell to people who are in very similar situations? Because it happens to people on a daily basis.
I think this scout, again, they judge you based on, well, he has no legs, so he has no skills. And when that scout told me that, I told him, you can't take away my dream. If you don't have dreams and goals, you don't have anything, in life. And I'm talking about every single day, not grandiose. But when he told me that, it just motivated me to get in the cages more and to work harder in the outfield and to get my arms stronger. And so then, 6 months later, here I am in Packard Stadium in 1983 in the same outfield with Barry Bonds in center field and Odie McDowell in right field. And here I am, and we're, catching balls and throwing things. Or these are future major leaguers that were in college at the time. And, I finished 13th out of 24 outfielders with no legs because the system rated me on bunting, hitting, all those things. 13th out of 24. It didn't say out of the guys and the one guy without legs. So a lot of times these scouts, I hope it's changed and I hope our world changes because, we have that mentality back in the 50s and 60s. Well, the wife should stay home and be the wife and raise the kids and all these kind of things. And it's like we've gotten that way with those with disabilities. Well, they should be greeters at Walmart or they should have this type of a job. When again, you talk about your friend, you don't know what's inside their brain. They could be a highly functioning person, with Down syndrome because we can't communicate deeply. Autism is the same way. We haven't even unlocked what it's like for some of those folks on the spectrum. So, it's time to just get rid of all of those traditional thoughts and ideas and, terminologies like Special Olympics. I wouldn't want my child to be special. I think they should change the name of that to Champion Games, the Hero Games, because we are trying to show that we're not special. We're as normal as you. My normal is I don't have legs. I walk on my ground. I can spin around and do funny things, and people can look at me like that. But this is my normal. Matthew, your normal is the things that you have to deal with. Someone who's blind, that's their normal. And I think we get so worried about lumping everybody in. And the world of the disabled is the biggest minority in the world, but we're the smallest voice.
No, and like you said, everybody is perfect and perfect in their moment. We're perfect in this moment. I used to have like people think that I was crazy, or they'd be like, "What's wrong with this dude? He's always smiling. He's always like having fun." It's like, dude, like you could be the happiest person in the world, and people are still gonna think that you're nuts. They're gonna think that you're crazy. Like there's literally all that stuff, and like you said, there's so many labels too. Like it shouldn't be called Special Olympics. That should.
Or to your point of Tim Tebow, a good guy that does a lot of good, and he's been taken down in the NFL. He's been taken down in baseball for what he tried to do, and all he wants to do. Yes, he loves God, and he talks about it all the time, but he's genuinely a good guy, and we always try to rip our heroes. We always want to make them take them down a peg, or can't wait for them to fail because then they're just like us. See, they're not that special. It's just like if people are good, just let them be good and let them utilize your gifts. I have this gift to make people laugh and do the things that I've done. I'm blessed at 55 to still be doing these crazy things that I'm doing, and I'll do it as long as people want to hear it.
Yeah, and one of your gifts of being a great football player, that sent you to college. You got a scholarship to go play college football. Like you even had a 2-point conversion. How many people can say that?
Yeah,
That's unbelievable. How'd that all go down?
I'm just, I was so lucky that Augsburg gave me the opportunity to play football. And then for a year, I did wrestle in college and I did play baseball in college. But football is what I focused on. And then it opened up so many doors as far as, try out with the Dallas Cowboys and traveling to Ireland and New Zealand and Australia to play football. And then, like you said, we were beating Australia. We were playing before 30,000 people in Melbourne at some stadium, and we were killing them. And we went for an extra point, and I held for extra points because I'm really good at that level. I don't have to get up or down. And they botched the snap. It came to me. I really didn't even throw it somehow. I just kind of heaved it like a hand grenade over my head. Tim Cease was in the end zone. He comes up with it. And I'll never forget because the Australian coach had his clipboard. And of all things, a guy without legs completes a 2-point pass. And he slams it. And the clipboard just stuck right in the mud, just straight out in the ground. It didn't hit. It just stuck like a knife in the ground. So, that's the thing. It's not like I was ever one of those beautiful, heartwarming stories of a kid that they let, a Down syndrome kid run the football one play, or a manager who's really disabled comes off to play one play or shoots a basket or something like that. It's like I had to get those people over the misnomer that I'm an athlete and I'm here to play. And if you are not going to block me, then I'm going to go in and get the quarterback and your coach is going to yell at you. And if you don't think I can take you down in wrestling, then that's my advantage because I know what to do against you leggies. You don't know what to do against me. So I try to utilize that. I get into the pitcher's mind because I know he's not going to hit my strike zone. And then the batter that came up after me, I think in my 4 years of high school ball, hit like 667 or some crazy number because the pitcher was so rattled. He just wanted to throw the ball to the strike zone after trying to hit my strike zone. So everybody wanted to hit in the lineup right after me because they knew they were going to, it was just going to either they were walked because he's still frazzled or they were going to get a strike down the pipe. And so, coaches started going, let's put Dave in these situations. That's 4th down and 1. Let's put him in at the line. It wasn't where they were going to set me up to fail. I know my limitations. I'm not going to play safety, I'm not going to do stupid things, but there are times that I'm in a position where I could do things that, most people would only dream about doing.
You have all this stuff going on and everybody's seeing you playing the sports that you love and you're doing well. Just like anybody else, everybody has their own problems. You may or may not know about them. That's why I believe that you should approach every single individual with care and kindness, because you don't know what somebody's going through. And during those college years, you had a couple of things going on at home. So it's like you have these challenges of these sports and you have these challenges at home within your family and yourself. And so you were able to go back to college. You called up your college coach because you went home for a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, it's not the proudest time of my life, but my mom died the day I left for college to go to Minnesota, and I still went anyway. And then my dad got sick. I found out that my mom had cancer. They hid it from me how bad she was, and my dad had cancer and never went to the doctor because he was taking care of mom. So dad died a year and a half later. I dropped out of college like within 3 months. Drove back home to Arizona. Just bounced around doing odd jobs, and then I started doing cocaine, and I became addicted to coke for about a year. And that, after my dad died, I'd lost all my support systems, everything that meant everything. And one day I was just coked out of my brain, sitting in a jacuzzi, trying to. I don't think it was trying to kill myself, but it was a cry for help. Just holding myself underwater in the jacuzzi for up to 2 minutes at a time. And I'll never forget the epiphany. I just popped out of the water and I looked up in the sky and I thought, if my parents are looking at me, if my coaches could see me, they thought I was this special dude, and look at me now. And so I vowed that if I could turn my life around, I would never, ever, ever let anybody down again. So I got out of the tub, called up Augsburg, got my TV job back, got my scholarship, got a one-way ticket to Minnesota, and I've been clean and sober since January of 1987. So when you meet somebody like Daryl Strawberry, you can understand what they've been through, and we got that bond that most people would not believe, that Dave Stevens and Daryl Strawberry would become lifelong friends based on both of their pasts. And you alluded to it a little bit. I found out years later that when Daryl Strawberry came out that very first day for camp, he was going to quit. He didn't want to play. He's like, I'm at this rinky-dink team in the middle of St. Paul, not even, affiliated with the major leagues. And he saw the media around me, and he realized that if a guy like me could be out there doing that, it changed him, and he had this passion. And he told me years later that he would not have continued that drive if I hadn't have been there. And he got to go to the World Series with the Yankees and do all these amazing things. And to hear that, years later, and to have him tell me that once someone else told me, it's very humbling. To have that impact on people. You just don't want to. You. It's one of those feelings like you just don't see yourself as that. And for him and him to have that, and I know I do make an impact, but still, it's one of those things that it's tough to come to terms with because I just live my life as me.
Well, first off, sorry for your loss. I know it happened when you're in college, but I'm sure your parents, they know what you're doing right now, and they probably have the best seat in the house, smiling down. Hopefully, they're
Yeah.
watching this. They'll be listening for sure. But just everything that you said, and Daryl Strawberry too. That's one of the reasons why he said that. He knows the battles that you've gone through. So no matter what type of battle that you have, if you're sitting at home and you're going through something, you can conquer it. You guys are two great examples of that. And at that time during college, when you just mentioned when you were underwater, like that moment of realization, that's when you signed your second lease on life. That's when you pivoted, and then Dave Stevens on steroids after that, like, dude, just going around inspiring people. And I watch so much film, and I do my research as much as possible. And it was awesome that you had tried out with the Cowboys and the NFL teams and stuff like that. I thought it was awesome. It was great. How I interpreted it, and everybody could go YouTube this. But the way that I interpreted it was, I believe, regardless if you made the team or not, I believe that everybody who was there, regardless if they made the team or not, they were inspired by one shape or form, and a lot of them said that they had the chills. But I think you were there for a reason, and everybody who was there, male, female, I think everybody walked away a better person just seeing your effort out there, and it was just awesome. If I was a reporter back in the day covering it, oh man, dude, we would have had some fun. But I'm glad that we're able to have some fun and talk about it today, because it's it's honestly so inspiring, and gosh, just everything that Dave is like sharing with us, and just opening up, and just the humility and the humbleness that you have is just so admirable. And we need more people like you, and I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards you. Like, again, like the Tim Tebow's, the Darryl Strawberries, the JB Smooths, like everybody, man. I've seen your Super Bowl. By the way, guys, he's covered over 10 Super Bowls, the 3 World Series, and again, the 7 Emmys in the background right here. But like, you've had so many crazy experiences, and it's just, dude, it's so awesome.
I don't believe it. When you talk about the people, and it's like, here's Dave with Mike Trout, and here's Dave with this guy, and here's like, and these are recent. These aren't like all my life, because I've got all the old stuff. Luckily, I met Prince. I got to hang out with Prince and talk to him before. Like, all these things are so surreal. And as you said too earlier, if I had legs, would I be a janitor? Would I be, a ballerina? I don't know. But, I was able to use sports in a way that most people, don't propel them to everything successfully that I've done is because of sports and the correlation of overcoming the odds, like the odds of everything. And I think my biggest mistake, it was the Green Bay Packers had invited me to training camp, and the Cowboys invited me for a 1-day tryout, and the Packers really sucked in those days. Those were like the really the bad days, and I took the Cowboys. And who knows if I'd have gotten into a spring training game or a preseason game with the Packers or something, if life would have been different. But I celebrate life every day that, I can get up, and despite, 3 rotator cuff surgeries, I can get up and, put my legs on, put my pants on 2 legs at a time, unlike you folks, because there's not much to put on. But, I wake up every day with no legs, and that's a plain, cold, hard fact. So, it's not a bed of roses every day. In the winter, things freeze lower on the ground, and I've got to deal with my hands, and, I am breaking down, and I can't continue to do the things I do. I'll still take some BP a little bit, hit a little left-handed, a little right-handed, and stuff like that. But, you know, God has blessed me with the gift of just being this way. And I just hopefully people can, when they see me, hear me, they just take away the one thing that, man, if that dude can do that, I have no excuses to not give 100%. It doesn't matter if it's not sports, it's, I want a new job, or I wanted to go out with that girl, or I wanted to go and try out for that play, or, people are going to judge me, I'm a male and I want to be a cheerleader. It's like, just go out. It's better to try and fail than to sit around 30 years later, I wish this, I'd have tried that, or I didn't do that. Like, you've got to have that satisfaction, and you don't have the victories without the losses along the way.
Dude, let's fucking go. Yo,
Yeah.
I'm hype. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use the beep edit on that, but dude, I say this a lot, but you're jazzing me up right now, man. You're firing me up. So
Thanks.
like, oh man, there's so many different ways that I could take this right now. One way that I want to is that you're working at ESPN, right? You started your on-air career during the time with the Dallas Cowboy tryout. You had a great career and still do have a great career in the media field.
Hmm.
Have awesome experiences. So while you were working at ESPN as an assignment desk manager, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
guys, Dave took vacation to go play professional baseball with the St. Paul Saints. People take vacation. They'll sit on their couch. They'll take vacation. They'll maybe just stare at the ceiling, or they'll sit and binge watch their favorite Netflix show. Like, this dude is taking 3 weeks off to go live another one of his dreams, or a current dream. It's just so awesome. So you played for the St. Paul Saints for a little bit, and that's where, like you said, you met Darryl Strawberry, who you pinch hit
Yeah.
for, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Not many people could say that, but Was that another one of those situations where 30 years down the road, you don't want to be like looking back, being like, oh, I could have played for the St. Paul Saints, but I didn't because I was too handcuffed to work or I was doubting myself. You know what I mean? Was that one of those situations?
Well, I'm so lucky that I had a chance to try out for the Minnesota Twins, and I tried out for the Cincinnati Reds twice, and they appreciate what I did, and it wasn't like I was this sympathy kind of thing. And so I tried to stay active in sports, and I went to Mike Veck a couple of times. He was the owner of the Saints with Bill Murray. Mike Veck is the son of Bill Veck, who ironically had Eddie Goodell, the only little person ever. He was 3'1" or something. The term then was midget, but it's a little person, and he had one at bat, and then baseball banned it. And I always thought that was, I wanted to do the same thing and prove that you could be that height and play. And Mike gave me that opportunity, invited me to come with a team to spring training, and little did I know that I walk out and here's JT Brewitt, a former Minnesota Twin, on the team, and then Jack Morris walks out trying to make a comeback, and he's a pitcher, and then here comes Darryl Strawberry, and I'm just like, what in the heck is going on? And here I am in the outfield and at second base and catching a little bit and working out with these guys, and I think they were kind of just as blown away that I was there. And was I a freak show? Was I a gimmick? But I started making throws and catches, and everybody just by the third day, and then Marty Scott, we were playing an exhibition game, and Marty throws me into a defensive replacement in the eighth inning to go play second base, and I was so nervous that the first guy struck out the batter, and I forgot which way you're supposed to throw the ball when they throw the ball around, because I'm like, I'm an outfielder, what am I doing here, and but then you see the lineup card and it says Dave Stevens, and it doesn't say handicap. There's no asterisk. There's none of that stuff. And then Marty goes, "Hey, you're starting at second base tomorrow, and you're leading off." When you get that, and there's nothing that could ever take that away. And you come up to bat and you hear now batting, number 32 Dave Stevens, and the crowd's going nuts, and you're trying to take in this moment, and the pitcher on the mound is throwing 91, 92 warming up, and I'm like, I've never faced anything like that, and am I going to fail, and are they going to laugh at me or feel sorry for me, and all those things. And then I fouled off 4 or 5 pitches off of this guy, and I took another called third strike, which was very questionable because it was really up, and then everybody booed the umpire, so they're like, but you come home and I've got 4 scorecards with my name on it. I've got the scorecard where Strawberries hit 3 home runs in Madison, Wisconsin. And all of a sudden I hear now batting for Darryl Strawberry, number 32, Dave Stevens. And I'm sitting in the dugout. I'm like, what? You can hit a 4th home run? And he goes, no, I've had my day. Go. And so I'm running out. Come on, we need a batter. And I'm like, what? So how many guys with legs I'd love to know in the history of baseball ever pinch hit for Darryl Strawberry? Just even at his lowest point, I don't think that really ever happened. So just the things that I've been able to experience, to fulfill all my dreams and my bucket list. And that's why I say I am, by far not the greatest athlete, but I had the determination and the grit and the presence to just continue to just work and work and work and throw a tennis ball against a wall, or buy one of those tossbacks and sit in the backyard and just hone down that, and then it lead to more things like, a few years later, I got to play in an MLB alumni game with major league players. Like, I got Mark Whitten to pop out. The dude hit 4 home runs in a game, and I finally got to pitch. And I got him to pop out. I faced Roger Maris's son, I got to play second base. I played third base, and these are major leaguers in the Phillies facility in Clearwater. So, all these things that I've gotten to do is just, it's not me, it's everybody. It's, as you mentioned, my coach, it's my friends, it's everybody on that field. Is so much blood and sweat and everything that I did in Arizona that every time I take it, I wear it on my shoulder. I'm so proud of who I am, where I came from. I'm not embarrassed. I'm just this poor little kid that just showed people you can do pretty much anything you want with determination.
Dude, and you looked like a boss out there. You looked like Jeff Bagwell with the eye black and the eyeglasses on, man. You got that MLB swag, and like you said, you were playing with MLB players, and you mentioned Clearwater. Clearwater's a great spot. If you guys are ever in Florida for spring training, or even just go down there for a minor league baseball game, definitely check it
Yeah.
out. But I love that ballpark too. That's one of my favorite
Yeah.
ballparks, and you have a special connection too with the Tampa Bay Rays. You had thrown out the first pitch at a spring training game as well as an MLB game. But how did that relationship come about? And because that one kind of stood out as a viewer, at least, uh, in comparison to the Twins and the Phillies and stuff like that. How did that Rays relationship come about?
There was I was down in Florida for something, and Joe Madden said he wanted to meet me, and so I went up to him, and someone had told him about my story, and he's like, "Well, do you want to go take some infield?" And so I went over, and here I am taking ground balls, and here's Johnny Damon and all these guys, Mark Price and everything, and Joe's like, "Well, why don't you come out tomorrow and work out with us for the rest of the day?" So the next day I come back, and suddenly I'm taking batting practice with these guys and I'm shagging balls. And Joe builds this relationship where during spring training every year for like 2 or 3 years, I'd come down, I'd work out with the team, I'd sit in the dugout, I'd take out lineup cards out to the teams. I'm like, hey, there's Big Poppy, there's, John Farrell. And Madden wanted me to play in an exhibition game. He really, but MLB because of whatever wouldn't. But he told Farrell one day that he was going to put me in the game, and Farrell was standing up all day waiting for like, is this it? Is this it? But he never did it. And to build that relationship with Joe and stay in touch with him with the Cubs and now the Angels. And again, he brought me in because he wanted to motivate the players. These guys that bitch and moan when their ankles hurt, or their aches and pains, and he said they're going to see you and they're not going to feel so bad about themselves. And so the next thing you know, I'm sitting here with Evan Longoria with his arm around me, or David Price. It was one day during the regular season they had me in town, and every time they'd have me in town, I'd take BP in front of the Twins or the Yankees, and Price would have the other teammates come up from other major leaguers and talk to me and just hang out. And without crowds and around people, they're a lot different and more nicer to you than if the media's got a mic in their face, because let's face it, the media doesn't do a very nice job to these guys all the time. So, getting that relationship, and then, sitting in dugouts and things, Major League Baseball, again, places you're not supposed to be as a normal human being. And here I am, at that, taking lineup cards out, talking to the umpires, throwing out first pitches, all these things as close as you can possibly get, to the show. And I just, I'm speechless sometimes when I think back. I forget. You've brought up so many memories that I forget, thinking about what was it like to play before, 15,000 screaming girls against the Jonas Brothers. I got to play softball against them, and, all these things that just, I just, it just, my face lights up as I start to think about these things, and I'm blessed. And again, thank you for your time tonight to just kind of reminisce and bring all these old things out from the mothballs.
Dude, no, I've, as you know from working in media, you interview and you have a lot of great conversations with a lot of people, and I always say one of the best parts that God has blessed me with this industry is and this gift is that you get to meet amazing people, and you're one of them, and you're right down the road, so I'm sure that we'll be seeing each other in
Yeah,
person in
I
the
can't
near
wait.
future. But it's literally like one of the coolest things, and just entering tonight, I was just so excited, dude, like a little kid. I still am like a little kid right now, just talking about it.
Well, we were ready for you. We were prepared. We had the force with us tonight. So,
Yeah, there you go, the baby Yoda. That's what I'm saying though. Like that's what this is all about, and your view on life is amazing. The relationships that you've been able to create yourself, and the amount of people that you've inspired throughout this entire journey is awesome.
and it's given me opportunities to do, something like this where I can take my kid on the field at Fenway and let them see their idols and let them appreciate that. And again, the stuff that we take for granted, that you can do that, and they don't realize how lucky they have it, my sons. And I think they also appreciate that a little more because they're not in awestruck. My son, after those days with Tim Tebow, was like, wow, he gets a bad rap, he's a really nice guy. And I'm like, duh. Because the media portrays him as a over religious or whatever. But just like Daryl Strawberry, people would judge me for becoming friends with him based on what his past was. And it's like, if we don't give people those second and third opportunities, because we all screw up, we all fail. And if you're just going to shut down a person, just based on one or two, mistakes, somebody that was given millions of dollars and the keys to New York City at age 19 years old, he was set up to fail from the beginning. And they forget about him once he's fallen, but he's built himself back up. He's a minister now. He's very highly successful as overcoming. Dwight Gooden, on the other hand, hasn't. But it's these people like Mike Vick of the Saints that gave him that opportunity, gave me my opportunity. And it's people like you giving my voice this opportunity. We've got to give those people those opportunities to do good in life. And there are so many people that don't get those chances because they're labeled or based on one or two, things that have happened, transgressions, stupid youth, wrong place, wrong time, those kind of things.
Yeah, and you just showed that awesome picture of you with your family, 3 boys. Dude, that's awesome. That's the icing on the cake to the Dave Stevens story.
Oh, yeah, and I got a Phillies fan, a Red Sox fan, and a Yankees fan. So, and me being a Twins and a Rays fan, it is a weird dynamic. But luckily this year we did make it to a Yankees Red Sox game. We made it to a couple other ballparks, as things eased up. So it's nice that as a family we can get back to doing the things that, I can provide those opportunities.
Well, that variety of fandom between the 3 of them, that just proves that they're Connecticut dudes.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about this state. When I started going to Quinnipiac and now living here in Stanford, I'm just like, man, you don't know if somebody's a Red Sox fan, a Yankees fan, and you get all types of fans. It's nuts. But dude, yeah, I'm just like so honored to be able to spend this time with you. So for everybody listening and at home, I'm sure they're of course inspired and motivated. But what would you like for them to know if they're in a situation that they just want to get better or get out of, or if they're in a situation where they're not sure, like, because maybe they're lacking the confidence, like what? And this goes to anything, whether it's like a new job, whether it's like trying to apply for a school, whether it's trying to make the varsity high school softball team. What would you say to them?
Well, we all go through these things, the ups and downs of life, and it's how you handle the downs that's going to keep you up. And I always tell people, no matter how low it's going to get, it's going to get better. I mean, the alternative, God forbid, is suicide, which is obviously has been spiking, lately, especially in teens with being bullied and things like that. But, you can't quit no matter what in anything. You just can't give up. You can't quit. I think today we're not teaching these kids enough about what it takes to put those efforts in, what it takes, to communicate. Everything now is texting on a cell phone. They're walking and they're not having conversations. And so how are they going to get jobs? How are they going to interact down the road? But, for those people that don't have that confidence, you just have to believe in yourself. It's not like somebody can jump in you and program you and make you and guide you. You only have you, to hold up and to be that excuse. So just go out and do it. I mean, it's a pretty simple philosophy. You just have to go out and try and get and put that effort into it. I literally walked off the street and biked a 5K yesterday for the first time in my life. And, it was one of those things where I knew I could do it, but I wasn't sure. But I got to the midpoint of that thing and I wanted to quit. And luckily I had a bike guide with me and they're like, no, you got to go. And then you start feeling that burn. And then, okay, I did it. And I, finished, 94th out of 125 or whatever. But it's still at 55 and using your arms to go 3.1 miles, it was a sense of accomplishment. Again, a tiny little goal, but I doubted myself. I sat there, I visualized it, I thought about it, and I said, I'm going to go out and give this, and I'm not going to quit. And unless this wheel falls off of this bike, I'm going to finish this race. And I did, and it felt good. And I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but I did it. I went out and I did it. And people just have to go out and do it and try and fail. Go for that job. And if you're going for that job, then go and study. Nowadays, you can download all the information about a company and be prepared and be ready to ask those tough questions about their job. Turn that job interview around on them and make sure that you did your homework. Or if you're a student at Quinnipiac and suddenly you've got the 3-in-1 program and everything's bogging you down, and you go talk to your professor or you try to find out out, hey, can I withdraw from this class and not take this penalty and pick it up again next year? There's always ways to think outside the box if you want to have those successes. It's just you've got to apply yourself. Nobody's going to give you anything. No one's going to give you those opportunities, unless you're affluent, your dad's rich, or a politician or something like that. We're not all blessed like that. You've just got to go out and make the most of what you have. Go out, try and fail, and the successes will outweigh the failures.
And something that we've seen with you and your journey in your life, and even in social media posts, always stay curious, always try to get better, always try out new things, whatever your age may be, whether it's yourself, Dave, or somebody listening to this, or myself. Like, always go out and try those new things, and that's one of the best ways to stay young. That's one of the best ways, again, just stay curious, just continue to grow.
Yeah, I think some of my older friends get a little mad because I don't notice a lot of 55-year-old guys doing the physical things I'm doing, where I'll still get out there and play a football game or play in a softball or baseball. But I'm blessed that I can continue to do these physical things and to do, just the day-to-day things. Like, how do I cook? Well, I got to hop around from stool to stool. How do I do laundry? People don't know these secrets. Like, what's it like to, walk around and live and do these things and have to, it's like, it's very intimate. As far as, I don't let a lot of people in on those kind of things, because it's like, it's like, I don't want people watching me lift myself up to get up to put clothes into the laundry, or those kind of things. That it's just like, it's very personal. It's like going to the bathroom. You don't want people to see, because would you want to see me doing a handstand, climbing up to get, because then you would feel sorry for me. But you know what? That's how I do things. I don't need you to feel sorry for the way I've adapted to things, because it's going to freak you out. Like, well, then why don't you get a front loading washer? I'm like, well, because the apartment doesn't have that. Like,
People are always gonna say stuff, dude.
yeah.
You could say it's sunny as hell out, and somebody's gonna say
'Cause
like, "No, actually, it's cloudy."
I live in your world, you don't live in mine. And I say that because, metaphorically, like, because take a look at what barriers are like in a wheelchair, ramps, they put parking places at a different spot, like all these things, especially at Quinnipiac. There's so much stuff broke there that they hate that I'm pointing out these things, because they don't want to put the money and time to fix it, because it costs money. And they can easily say, well, we have one person with a disability and 10,000 students, so that outweighs the other. It's things that we got to change.
Well, yeah. So I got a good Quinnipiac story about that. Not bashing Quinnipiac at all. I love the
No,
Bobcats. I have some
no.
great friends there. But like, to your point about wheelchair accessibility, back sophomore year of college, I had gotten into a bad car accident. Woke up in an ambulance. It's probably the first time that I'm actually like sharing this publicly, outside of like friends, of course. But woke up in an ambulance. Next thing you know, I had a concussion, broke my leg, broke my forearm. So I was in a wheelchair for almost 3 months. And
Mm.
that was during Christmas break. So I had the decision to stay at home or to go back and be in in a dorm that was not very wheelchair accessible. So like, I had to like hop up and down the
There's
stairs.
none.
I had my
There's
roommates
none.
tie my shoes and hop going into the shower, sweat my butt off, because like literally it was like the opposite, whatever. So like, there's a lot of bouncing, right? And going back to my buddy Steve Robinson, who I mentioned at the beginning of this, he was living with me, and Vinny and a couple other guys, but they would like take care of me the best that they could, because again, it was not a dorm room that had an elevator or anything like that. And I'll never forget, I was in class and I went to go to the bathroom. I think it was in was it Liberal Hall? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the bathroom and wheeled myself in there, and somebody was in the one handicap stall that they had, like standing, taking a
Yeah.
piss. I'm like, God, like, I really got to go to the bathroom. This dude's like taking forever. I don't know what he's doing in there, but he's gonna feel like an asshole when he comes out and sees the wheelchair in there, and like 1 foot like and banging on the stall and stuff. But yeah, like, so it's so funny that you say that about Quinnipiac, but because it's not just Quinnipiac, and like, again, they had the one stall, but so many more places need to be more accessible to everybody rather than just one type. You know?
The world of the disabled, the minority the disabled world, is the only minority that you can join at any time. Like, you can become disabled at any moment. You can't become black, you can't become Chinese, you could convert and become Jewish, but you know you could become disabled at any moment. And so you now have experienced what that world is like, and it opens up your eyes to see that, because I see that all the time. I got to go to the bathroom, and there's that one dude who just wants the room or the personal sink or whatever, and he comes out and he doesn't feel bad. He's just like, oh, whatever, I'm entitled. That's the problem with the way it is. But the East Coast is really bad because nobody here wants to change, curbs or anything like that. You guys all have this old grandfather type, I'm a historic building BS type crap. That's why I don't like to go to Newport or any of these old towns, because they won't fix it. And we're living longer. They're putting us, filling us with chemicals that keep us alive and physical therapy and things. So there's going to be more and more people that are going to need access and are going to be in wheelchairs and walkers and things. And it's like, it's time for the East Coast to start fixing things up.
Oh, for sure. And you know what? We are combined just two people, but two people who are hoping for change, hoping for a better world and bringing the positivity and everything. And I want everybody to be able to get inspired and follow along your journey because, yeah, dude, you still got a lot more of your book to write. So, what
Yeah.
is the best way that people can follow you on social media? Shoot out all your platforms because, dude, I'm telling you guys are going to love it, whether he's interviewing LL Cool J or Michael Irvin or just putting up a fun throwback post. But yeah, how could everybody hop in on the fun?
If you're looking for a great motivational speaker, so I've heard, you can go to davestevenspeaks.com. But most of the other social media is Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter is all Dave Stevens Speaks. Heck, I even try to do stuff on TikTok and I don't understand it. So, I got to say, robot dances. If I do robot dances or, something, my kids get so embarrassed at the stuff that I do half the time anyway, that it's like nothing I do impresses them.
Nah, they love you. I'm sure even if they're listening to this, hopefully they'll realize even more how much of a stud their dad is.
But no, I would appreciate the follows. We just got verified on Facebook. I am hoping to get those blue check marks, because I guess they mean so much to so many. They don't mean anything to me. But I just I like the people that follow us, because there's so much good content, with what I'm doing and what we're doing with Ability Media at the college at Quinnipiac, and telling those stories. And it's not all about me. I try to showcase other people's stories. I just did an interview with a guy that can't speak, who computerized his whole speech, and it's very moving to hear. Again, as I say, there are people way worse off than me. He's trapped in a body and he has to communicate through a computer. What am I complaining about anything in my life? I can get up and do anything and take care of my kids and go teach and, do all these fun things that I do. So yeah, if they could just follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever form of, social media that you have, check me out, hire me, bring me in. And, thank you for this platform. And it's been fun.
No, thank you for hopping on. Keep swinging, brother.
All right, Matthew. Thank you, man.